Let's talk about Power Plants, a game where wizards try to control a field of magical plants. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald. In this episode, we're going to talk about an older game from Kids Table Board Games, but this is a game called Power Plants, and Power Plants has always been one that's appealed to me. It was released a few years ago, but the folks at Kids Table Board Games were kind enough to share with me a review copy of this game. I always like a game with a pun in the title. So Power Plants is not about generating power. Well, it sort of is about generating power, but you're using plants to do that. These are powerful magical plants. This is a game for between 1 and 5 players. Kids age 8 and up can figure this one out. Games take half an hour to 45 minutes depending on the number of players. Let's take a deeper look at Power Plants from KTBG. Power Plants is a light to medium area control tile placement game where players are going to be adding these tiles to the field and you're trying to collect gems. The way that you win this game is by having the most gems at the end. How you do that is by controlling patches where gems have been placed, by having the largest number of sprites in a particular field, and there are some end game scoring effects based on plants that you've placed. Turns in this game are super simple. You're going to place a tile somewhere on the board, you're going to choose to activate a sprout action or a grow action, and then you're going to draw another tile from the bag. Now, I say that the turns are simple, the rules are simple, but there are lots of choices here for you to make. And in fact, you're only going to be working with 5 plants in the game. So you're choosing, though, from a bigger group of plants. They have some extra ones in here. In addition, there are some advanced plant powers that you can use once you've become more familiar with the game, or if you're a more advanced strategic game player. What does it mean to take a sprout or a grow action? Well, you're going to place a tile somewhere on the board. You've got a little wizard. Whoever the active player is going to put a wizard on there, and then you get a choice. The sprout power is going to activate the one ability related to the plant you just placed. The grow power, though, will activate each of the grow abilities for all of the adjacent tiles. So in this case, if I wanted to grow, this red plant is going to allow me to place 3 sprites on a patch that's adjacent to the wizard. Those sprites are going to give you that area control at the end of the game, but they're very easily knocked off by other players as you play through. If I chose to do the grow action instead for this red tile, then I'm going to activate the red grow power and the green because those are both adjacent. Then I draw a tile, the next player gets to take their turn. Some of those plants allow you to add sprites or to move sprites. Some of them allow you to earn gems right away rather than placing them on the field. Sometimes you're just going to place gems on a patch on the field. Sometimes you can manipulate the garden layout by moving those tiles around. Sometimes you can knock opponents out. You can never have 2 different color sprites on the same patch. So if I somehow manage to add a pink sprite over here where the blue guy is, the blue guy goes back to its owner. Play continues until this big bag of plants is depleted, and you'd think this would be a table hog, but it doesn't take up too much space. So there's only so many. There's 8 of each of these plants in here. So there's a total of 40 that are going to be drawn out of the bag. You get one final turn once the bag is empty. So players are going to have 1 plant left in their inventory, and then you start counting up points. You're going to count points based on, well, the number of gems that you've earned along the way. If you collected some, you're going to take the gems from the tiles on the board that you control, and then you're going to count up area control based on the number of plants of the same color that are adjacent to one another, that are touching. What skills, though, are you practicing when you play a game like Power Plants? Well, this is a strategy game, and it can be, you can alter the level of difficulty here, but you're always planning ahead. Okay, so you can have different combination of plants in the game. You're going to be using 5 out of 8, and then you've got the advanced plant abilities too. They've got some suggestions in the rule book for, oh, here's good combinations when you're just starting to learn the game. And so you are budgeting those actions and your sprites, you really have to decide, where are those sprites going to go? Where am I going to place my tile in order to either maximize the size of a field or activate the abilities that I want to activate? Am I going to sprout or grow? There are lots of choices to make, and you're trying to make sure that your turn is efficient enough that you're going to earn the most gems by the end of the game. Whenever you're thinking ahead like that and doing some strategic planning, whenever you're budgeting actions or working towards a goal and trying to be efficient in achieving that goal, well, what we're talking about is a set of skills called executive functioning skills. And those executive functions are the skills and abilities that you need for goal directed action. Strategy games do definitely work this way. And this is a game that is, it's friendly enough to kids, and the theme is friendly and the components are nice and big and chunky. I've played this game with grown-ups, and there's a little bit of analysis that, well, sometimes more than a little bit of analysis you're doing on your turn while you're making decisions about how you're going to play this out. You're also adding pieces to a growing puzzle each turn. Each turn you're adding one of these tiles, and you might be adding some sprites or some gems. And so you're exercising that visual spatial problem solving skill. How are you going to do what you want to do, and where's this tile going to go in order to accomplish that? Maybe you want to knock someone off a particular field so that you can have control at the end of the game. So there really is some spatial problem solving here as well. And finally, there's a working memory component. Working memory is the whiteboard in your mind where you keep information so that you can manipulate it somehow. It's a super important skill to develop. It's involved in mental math calculations, but you're juggling some information here. And the reason you're juggling that is that you've got 2 powers for each of 5 plants. There's 10 different things that might happen on your turn. Um, and you're choosing, oh, do I want to activate multiple things in a certain order? Or do I want to just activate 1 power that might be a super strong ability? Now that does require some juggling, and we did find ourselves thinking about, okay, well, I'm going to be able to do this and then this and then this, and you're trying to decide, oh, if I put it here, then it's that and that and that that I get to do. You really are juggling some information and multitasking a little bit as you play this game, despite the fact that the turns are so simple. Final thoughts, though, about power plants. Well, this is a game with a pun in the title, so automatically it was something that I wanted to check out. But it's more than just a pun. This is not just a gimmicky title here. This is a game that has great components. There's big, chunky components that the kids are going to like, but the adults that I played with too enjoyed kind of manipulating these things and rumbling them around in the bag. The shape of the components, it makes it fun how they fit together, and it's perfectly thematic in that way too. You've got the wooden meeples. You've got great artwork, I think, great artwork on the plant cards, and I do like the images on those plant tiles as well. You've got this fun little wizard piece, and then the sprites that you're going to be manipulating. Really, the only weak link, maybe in terms of components, is that you've got these little gems. Some of them have numbers on them if they represent more than one, but these are cardboard punchouts. That's the only cardboard in the game, other than these reminder sheets. So great components. And then you've got these mechanics, tile placement and area control. This is such an interesting game with the choice of, do I activate 1 power or a bunch of powers, depending on where I placed everything. And there's a lot of decisions to be made. Now this game is simple enough for 8-year-olds to understand, and I think more if their parents are playing with them maybe, but it's a game where the adults I played with were there was sometimes a little bit of analysis paralysis happening where you really had to think about, where am I going to put this? And sometimes we just wound up saying, well, let's try this and see what happens. Um, what a great mix of mechanics with a simple rule set that's easy to understand. However, there's a lot of strategic depth here, and that is a sweet spot for the groups that I play with. We love games where it's easy to learn and quick to get to the table, but you're still making some fun decisions, and there's still some strategy involved there too. So KTBG certainly I think, has created something special. There's tough decisions every turn that you're making. You can't always do all the things that you want to do. You're not sure, should I place that sprite? Is it going to get knocked off? Where should I place those gems so that I'm going to control them at the end of the game? And control goes back and forth. There's so much replayability with all the different combinations of plants that you can have and the advanced abilities versus the basic abilities. And how these things activate in order, even. You really have to think about some things here. But you could play this again and again and again, and it's always going to be different. It is clever. Here it's a game where at at the solo level you can play it just one player, and it's fun with one, it's fun with two. I played with three typically, and three people playing this game is great because there's a lot of back and forth and knocking things around. We had a great time with this thing. In fact, I was surprised. The adults were surprised. Oh, this is a kids' table game, but it's so strategic. It's probably one of the most strategic KTBG games I've played in terms of the depth and complexity of what you can do here, along with all of these different options that can come up as you play. Are there downsides though? I mean, maybe despite the fact that the turns are simple, figuring out all of these powers and how they might interact together might be challenging, especially for folks who aren't so familiar with these kinds of tile laying strategy games. It can be a game where, if you do have five players, it takes a while to get back to your turn. I still think you're involved because there's a lot of interaction as you're placing these tiles because your sprites are going to get knocked off or gems are going to get added, and you're constantly thinking when it comes back around to me, what powers am I going to want to activate? What patch do I want to control? But it might feel a bit swingy depending on the powers and the combinations and how they activate. Sometimes you can have a turn where a whole pile of things will happen. At other times, you're only doing one thing. So maybe sometimes you get a big long term with multiple things going on. And at other times, your turn is going to be a lot quicker. But there's not a downside that interfered with our enjoyment of the game. This was a big hit with our group. I'm so pleased that KTPG shared Power Plants with me. It's one that's going to get pulled out again, I'm sure. So thanks so much to KTPG. If you have any questions or comments about this winner of a game or about anything to do with Brains on Games, you can leave them in the comment section below the video, or you can email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go. The previous ones are already up there. Brains on Games is the X handle and the Blue Sky feed and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed. So we're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.